Welcome one, welcome on, welcome down inside, down inside. I said, welcome one, welcome on. Oh, grab someone you love, hug 'em, and swing side to side on that ride. Let it ride, let it ride, let it drive you down to its core. Mm. We're drinking vitamins, zero water, and we're having a good time hanging with my son or my daughter. Sitting on the beach. This isn't the beach. You can see this isn't the beach. Composed. But you can also see my acne. Oh my god. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Rock Show with Connor Farrell. Today, we have a special show because you may know me as the Godfather. You may know me, the archetypal rock star, but today I am the Apprentice. Not Donald Trump, not that kind of apprentice, but I'm the apprentice of the art. Not the art of the deal, but the art of love and life and music and creation. So I'm giving you my notes and takeaways from what was said and what was left unsaid. Today we are going to be the apprentice of Mike Mills, if I recall his name correctly, but then again, that might as well be wrong. I might be saying the wrong name. I might be remembering his name wrong. I might be saying his name wrong. But if that's his name, this is Mike Mills, the bassist from REM. REM, very successful band there in the 80s, as you may recall. Or if you're a Gen Z rocker like me, you probably don't recall. But you've probably heard them and go, they're from the 80s. They don't sound like stereotypically 80s. Why is that? Was that intentional? Was that not? You may say they don't sound 80s, but they do sound corny. Oh, no, I'm kidding. They don't sound corny. But they do have an aesthetic. It's funny, like they didn't want to sound like they're from the 80s, but they also don't sound timeless. I wouldn't say it's timeless, you know. Let's see. I'm looking here because the computer's there, but you're here. Yeah. Let's see. You, the viewer. You, the viewer. You may see me. Look at this little Tyrannosaurus hands. People in the audio experience are like, what the heck is this guy talking about? And that's accurate. You go, you, the viewer. You, the viewer. Ew. You don't even know what I'm talking about here. Okay, so REM, so this idea was they were talking about being like superstars and pop stars, right? And it was very funny. My mom might be joining us, but the lovely Karen Farrell, she may be joining us. But she brought up when I was telling her about this interview I listened to last night with Rick Beato interviewing Mike Mills from REM. And they mentioned how they were super big and super popular. And it was kind of funny what songs would be super hits, right? Like, what's the one before? Shiny, happy people all in. Shiny, happy people. Oh, demonetized. Okay. Let's see. Songs. Oh, losing my religion. The one I love. Or is the one I love? This one goes out to the one I love. So, I'll get to that song later. They're talking about the idea of being super, super, super famous and successful. And there's the idea of a monoculture, right? Where back in the day, music was more of a monoculture, where it's like if you were famous or you had a hit song, to be a hit song, it was a hit. But, okay. Basically, a hit song was known by everyone. If it was a hit song, everyone knew the same song, right? And so everyone knew the same band. So you had a shared cultural reference that you could make for an entire country of people, like the United States, let's say, right? So everyone knew Roxanne. You don't have to put on a red light. Everyone knew that, right? They knew the Roxanne. Put on the red light. Put on the red light. They knew that. Everybody knew that. Grooving through that. I should have grabbed a tissue. I'm a little under the weather, recovering, feeling a little better. I got the mics out today. Do you like that? I busted out the mic. We're trying a new thing on that side. Out. I'm out. 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 Ooh, that one kind of took its toll on my throatle. Anyways, we're up here now. This is where we're talking. Now we're down here. Welcome down to the register. Okay, so I'm gonna lay back. So basically, Duran Duran. My mom brought up Duran Duran and this idea that like there's musicians who like want to be taken seriously and who are serious musicians, and there's pop stars and all this stuff. I'll get back to the monoculture thing later. Let me write monoculture thing. But I want to dig into this whole thing because this was kind of spurred by my mother mentioning that she'd watched a Duran Duran, probably on like Netflix or something, and they were talking about how Duran Duran were serious musicians and they're really into the craft and really technical and like, you know, they're talking about different polyrhythms and chord progressions and voice leading and all these kind of things that like you could get that are much nerdier, like modal, like you think like sweaty nerd type of stuff, right? And Duran Duran were serious musicians into the craft who loved music, but they were written off for having these like bubblegum pop songs or corny pop songs, whatever you want to call them. These very light things that are almost like made for kids. They're made for everyone. Like they're super produced and like very like they're impossible not to like. That's why it's like bubblegum. It's like, oh my God, it's so light and beautiful and great and like so tasty. And just like you can't not like it. But here's the thing is like, people go, well, they're not real musicians. This is how they'd write them off and say, well, they're not real musicians. And it's like, well, who is a real musician then, right? And so I don't know, but I find a question that we probably can answer is who loves music more, right? And I think it's a more meaningful question. Maybe we can't answer it, but I definitely think it's a more meaningful question than who's a real musician. Don't know. Who loves music more? Is it the guy who says, I'm willing to sacrifice my ego to write songs that are going to be super impactful and bring people together and that are actually going to, you know, live forever and are going to, you know, make it so that I can do a career of doing music full time. Here's the real thing. I wrote it down to be specific. Who loves music more? The musicians who are willing to put their egos aside so they can write songs that let them play full time forever, or the authentic but self-indulgent artist with perfect technical prowess who sits in their bedroom and doesn't get to do music for a living, you know? I would say the person who loves music the most is the one who's willing to sacrifice their ego and everything else to do it full time, right? Because it's not a deal with the devil, but it's a deal, you know, like that where it's a real deal in a sense where you've actually got to give something up. You've got to sacrifice something. And so a musician who loves music the most is willing to sacrifice street cred. That's really what it comes down to. The real musician thing is street cred. If you're willing to, you know, sacrifice being, you know, underground darling of college radio like REM was, right? Or you're willing to sacrifice being highfalutin and praised like Duran Duran was willing to sacrifice, then you get to be a musician forever. You get to do music forever. And here's the thing. How does this actually happen? And so this is where I kind of wrote this down as creating music is intrinsically rewarding for you as the artist, but it only becomes helpful to others when it makes them, the audience, feel heard or understood, and or it brings them together. So I wrote that out. Making and creating music is intrinsically rewarding for you, the artist, but it only becomes helpful to others when it makes them feel heard, understood, and or brings them together. So think about that. Yeah, the music for you is intrinsically rewarding, which is good. It's fun to go do, right? Both people have that in common. But it only does music the act of making and creating, because when people say playing music, really you're creating music in that moment. You're not playing something. It's not a recording coming back. It's a new creation every time you do it, right? And so if you think about it like that, I think it's more accurate of a context, you know, a framework to have around playing, rehearsing, being a musician is you're making music and creating music, right? And where you draw the line, but like when you pick up the guitar to play bum 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 bum, like I can't get no. When you pick up the guitar to do that, what you're doing is you're playing the thing every time. It's never the same. So you're creating a performance of something that could have been, preconceived or performed prior, but you're creating it. That's the difference. Like when you hear someone playing the piano, you walk by in the neighborhood, it's different from hearing someone listen to a recording, right? Because they're creating in that moment. And that's where the good, I think a good recording, a good record versus a bad recording or a bad record of a song is a good recording feels like you're capturing them in the act of creation. It feels like they're creating when they're playing the part. It feels like visceral. Doesn't feel like, and there's a part of that where like you want to have the ability to do things, so you still put your full force into it, right? So things you can notice on that is even if you take the same bend, John Mayer talks about this. Guitarists and blues players specifically, you can tell them apart by how they bend a note, and how they hold on to it, and like what's the vibrato like? So they go instead of these aren't supposed to be pleasing to the ear necessarily, and I do have a little bit of a vocal thing, a little bit of a sore throat going on. But it's that concept, right? It's that idea, oh, look at me on camera. I'm looking at you, the viewer. You're the viewer. See, I'm leaning to the side. Because I got it set up. I've got it set up in case my mother wants to come out and be the second mic. Anyways, I'm in the middle of the frame now. I can bring the camera closer. It's just me. But if someone else joins. Anyways, this is where I sit for the pod. This is where I sit. Do I have ADHD? I probably do. I don't know. I'm very hyper. Once I get going, I'm going, which I like, which is good. And anytime I get existentially angsty, I go, you know what you could do right now? You could pick up that guitar and you could create something really good. And then, ironically, every time I'm that angsty, it's guaranteed I'll write something really good. And when I write something really good like that, I go, damn, that was good. And I go, yeah, the angsty stuff is wrong. Like it proves to me in that instant. It's almost like a checkmate to my emotions and my subconscious. It's like, yeah, no. The angst, as fun as it is being edgy, it's like, no. That's not real. Not real. I swear to God, that person is not real. There's the lady on the plane who said that guy's not real. I tried finding that video. People kept making jokes about that, kept memeing it. I kept seeing on Twitter. X the everything app, brought to you by Elon Muskrat and elongated Muskrant. And see, here's the thing. Do you guys know what podcast stands for? Yeah, it stands for pontificating broadcast. Yeah, put that in your bingo card. See if you get a couple points for that one, right? Stuff that in, wedge it under some pages, you know what I mean? Let it get funky. Let it I'm saying imagine you got a wet, sopping something. I don't know, food mush, and you sop it between some pages in a book and a bookshelf. The book is on the side, right? Looking at the camera now. So imagine the book's like this, right? And you open it. Here's the pages, and this is the bookshelf. This is the back wall. This is you coming in to grab a book. I'm looking at perspective. Oh, I moved the mic away from me. You couldn't hear me. So here we go. So this is the book. Looking at you. This is the book, right? It's on the side with the the front cover facing down, and then you can see the spine of the book and the pages pointing towards you. And so you take a little food product and you mush it just in there, just in there in the pages, and just over time, what happens to that? Ooh, get a little damp, get a little sweaty, get a little garlicky, probably a little bit of turmeric. Is it turmeric or is it turmeric? Turmeric. Oh, turmeric is wild, bro. You pull out to the friggin' Marsala parlor and you just go, I don't want turmeric. I don't want turmeric. I want turmeric. Turmeric. Gosh, you're a serious fella. You hop in asking for turmeric. No, you're not. Think you're serious walking in and asking for turmeric? I want turmeric. Yeah, I want a term with Rick. You know Rick, bring Rick here right now. That's like if you're being demeaning in an office building or like demanding. This is America's #1 family-friendly podcast. I just thought you should know that. It's only been 15 minutes. Oh my God, holy cattle. Then again, I haven't even got through these ideas. So making and creating music is intrinsically rewarding for you. So I have this theory that basically if the reward for you, if there's things you do in life, and here's the input and here's the output, right? And this is like function, this is X, right? Like if you think like basic like math. So X, and it takes you to Y. Whatever input you have, it has an output, right? It brings you, it creates, And so if you think about the inputs are actions I take, right? And so for like, if you want to be good at guitar, it's play guitar, practice colloquially, right? Colloquially, you would say practice the guitar is your input. It's the action you take. And that gives you, over time, the output of good at guitar. But really, it gives you better at guitar. For each input of practice guitar, you gain better at guitar, right? That's what happens. You gain an improvement. You have an increase, right? You increase your input, right, from zero practicing to an amount of practice gives you an amount. Now, how much practice in one session versus not, irrelevant. The basic concept, though, is you do an action, that's the input action, and it gives you an output. And so let's take working out. I love working out. I love going to the gym, pumping iron. I love bench press. I love lat pull downs. I love bicep curls. I love skull crushers. You do some tricep push downs. Do some lateral raises. I started doing what I call these the Arnie bench lats. Yeah, the Arnie bench raise is what I'm doing. I lean sideways on your side on like a bench, and then you're like, oh, I keep forgetting I have to keep the mic upright. Imagine I'm on my side right now. Like the ground is there, right? This is the ground. This is the ceiling. I'm laying on my side. I'm laying on my side. Okay, my weight's all over here. And imagine this is holding straight up a weight. If I come down, I'm laying on my side and I do this. In theory, you could do this on the floor. And just like that really gets my lateral. Anyways, whole reason I go through this whole thing to give you context is if you're looking at lifting and working out, for some people and a lot of people, it's how they get into it, is they're unhappy with their body, right? And so they have an output. They will have an outcome they want, right? Which is, I want the body. I want the looks. I want the aesthetics, right? And once you get the aesthetics and you get the look and you get the body, you realize you never care about the outcome. You never truly do. You like it. It's neat. You never really are like, oh, that motivated me, right? Like having a podcast doesn't really interest you. Having a lot of money, I've never had a lot of money, but I've known a lot of people, growing up in Scottsdale, growing up in La Jolla. I mostly know people with lots of money. And this is what I observe from them. This is what I observe from everyone. And you read all the books like Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. And basically what it gets down to is like none of the fun is having an outcome. It's all of finding inputs that you like, right? So let's take the fitness analogy, right? Here's the thing, the people who fall off or who do something forever, if you want something to be sustainable in the true sense that I could do this for a decade, I could do it every day for 1,000 years, or I could do it, consistently every other day, or like 2 times a week for 1,000 years, right? Those types of things, those people, those systems, those behaviors, those patterns, right? I often see, and you can, see if this resonates with you, but I often find that they're characterized by looking at the input itself as the reward, not the outcome as the reward, or the output is the reward. It's the input. The act of doing the input is rewarding. So for me, that's like playing, creating music, like sitting down and just jamming, or sitting down and just playing guitar with a little practice amp, like just playing some scales and just like ripping through them, like really feeling it, like starting to be like, okay, I'm like playing that scale, but like now it's like let's go light on the fingers and go light on how we're hitting it and like really get like muted and turn the volume down a little bit. You still have the like loud distortion with tons of effects, but you turn down the input, and that's where you get some juice. And then you're still playing a scale. You're still just practicing. You're really starting to like feel yourself. You know what I mean? You're like, okay, that was gross, and I did. You're starting to feel yourself. That's not what I meant. Not what I meant. But you're starting to feel yourself. Like, I can't say that. Okay. You're starting to get into what you're doing, and you're really like having a performance. You're really creating, right? It really is like fun. You're getting into a flow state. That's what you're doing. And so you're like, okay, well, let's just play around with it, right? Like even if it's just I'm doing a scale up and down. Like start mixing around with rhythms, start mixing around with things, and you go and just start like hearing things, and you're playing and creating. And for me, that act of the input of playing and creating and doing stuff, that's the rewarding thing. That is the rewarding thing. Sometimes you're like, oh, I really want to have an album or I want to have some good songs. But the good songs aren't really the thing. It's really just having the outcome is a good way to check that you've been doing the thing that you actually like doing, which is the input, right? It's basically like looking at, let me think of a good analogy, but I'll say the concept first, and then we can think of an analogy. The concept is you're looking to see what are the side effects that indicate that you're probably doing the thing you should be doing, right? Like, oh, like if you're showering often and you're buying and you're eating a lot of protein, or you're like losing weight but gaining muscle or maintaining muscle, it's probably an indicator that you're working out a lot, right? You're like, oh, I'm really hungry, so I'm eating all the protein, and I'm showering all the time because I'm sweaty as heck, right? I'm sweaty as all gosh and darn, and you're a little silly little guy, you know me. So you're silly as all gosh and heck, and you're showering all the time. You're a silly little goober, just showering, little goober. Anyways, there we go. I thought I should just freak you out on the camera. Man, that is fun. Only 22 minutes. Think about that. Only 22 minutes. Wow. Wow, keep looking at the clock on this one. Wow, keep looking at the clock. Oh, so that concept of the thing being intrinsically rewarding and then the output. So if your reward is doing the input, you'll do it forever because it's just the input. And so you'll always have that output, right? If I always love working out, I'll always have the output of physical fitness, right? As long as I don't do other things like eat like, poo-poo, and that confounds it. Oh, hello there. Hello there. Welcome. They cannot hear you. You're on camera. No, well, if you'd like to cover up, you can come over here and you can wrap a towel around you. So you can wrap a towel seat around her. I got a reminder, there's a family-friendly podcast. She's got to keep it family-friendly. Now that I'm an old critter myself, I'm a 21-year-old critter. I want to remind her, like, keep it family-friendly, okay? I know we horse around often with some playful language, but let's keep it family-friendly, okay? I'm a hefty critter, so I can handle it. But the viewers at home, you're working your way up on your heft, on the heft scale, on the Dolph Lundgren heft scale. You're working your way up on the health cap heft. On the heft metrics, you're working your way up on your heft metrics. I need to get my heft metrics up. Oh man, that's a good voice. That's a good voice. And so all of it comes down to being clever and not being hardworking. It's not intensity. It's all cleverness. That's something too. Is like, because I'm gonna get back to this intrinsic rewarding thing, but also it's the cleverness, right? Because here's the thing: is if you want something and you just work twice as hard, you just get twice as much outcome usually if it's linear mapping. But there you go. You're covered up. Okay, so let's see. She's covered up. She's entering the scene. She takes her microphone, and look here, this little green Farrell. This little green Farrell will tell you that your microphone is close enough to your face to be audible.
Is it close enough to my face?
It's close enough to your face. Now, okay. Karen, you're joining us on this broadcast. So here is the camera. You can look at it, but here is our playback. We can see what we're looking at.
Can see.
So we're going to move your chair a little bit so you can be half and half. So move your chair, turn it. Why, there we go, darling. Look at that. What a beautiful specimen we got here. Now, you can take your hat off if you want more sun on your face. What? There's no shade. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, you can.
Look.
It's a look. It's a look.
Never
I didn't mean
touch
to touch
a woman's hat.
See, look at the camera. Don't touch a woman's hat.
Okay, I don't think I want to do this right now.
No. We'll just. I'm gonna calm down.
Are you gonna edit this?
No. It's all free and loose. So I want to remind you, this is a family-friendly show. We're gonna keep it, no swears, but that forces us to be creative, right? No controversial topics.
Okay.
Except for Dolph Lundgren. I think there's this guy, Kyriakos Grizzly, who's heftier. I've come up with this concept of the heft scale.
Okay, let's talk about something I might relate to you about.
Okay.
I think we're talking about music.
Yes. So here we go. So I was talking about this idea. Who loves music more? The people who are willing to put aside their ego so they can do music forever because they love music so much that they're willing to not embarrass themselves, but they're lose their street cred so they can be a full-time musician.
Okay.
But the ironic thing about that, and I think they're more, they love music more. They might, so this idea of who's a real musician.
Why does it matter who loves more? We can all love as much or as little as we want.
True.
And there should be no judgment about who's anything.
Yeah.
When it comes to the degree of love of music.
Yeah.
And I hate music snobs. It's you hear a sound, you like it resonates with you, it moves you.
Yeah.
That's it and that's all.
That's it and that's all. Quote Arnold Schwarzenegger.
But, that's all it should be about. But people who play music or performers, they're gonna get a different experience out of the performance of music as maybe the average listener. But who's to say that the average Joe that's just having a great time dancing around at the concert?
Yeah.
Who's going to spoil their fun? That's their experience. So
what's
I'm
interesting?
Really,
no, you like it. It's good. You're camera shy. I'm camera shy. We're all camera shy.
We're all camera shy.
It feels good because now we're talking about this. I feel good. We were talking earlier. Do you want to change or do you want to do this?
I want to do this.
Okay, well I'll keep talking. So, bye, toodaloo. Okay. You can do hot tub. I can wrap up. I can move it. I did. This was the plan after you're done vacuuming, so I'm not springing this on you. It's okay. Yeah. That's okay. Anyway, so here is this concept. The concept is we were talking about respect from other musicians or being seen as a sellout or seen as, not being a real musician. And so this idea of integrity as a musician. And I find that to write a pop song doesn't mean you can't write rock songs, right? So if you're the heaviest, heavy metal rock, and then you write a pop song for a pop artist, the skill of writing songs doesn't care about what style or genre or what, kind of outcome it has, And so here's this idea of who's a real musician. People try and use that as an attack, and I think that's not a useful question. I don't, or at least, upon cursory inspection, it doesn't seem to be. But if you look at who loves music more, that seems to be, much more insightful because it goes, well, who loves music the most? The person who lets their ego, who has their ego is bigger motivator for them than their love of music, or the person whose ego is smaller, right? So either that person has a small ego, and that's why they're able to put the music above their ego, their love of music, or they just love music way more. Probably a combination of both. And so that's where you kind of get this idea of who loves music more. And I think that's more interesting. But here's the thing, is the person who actually, as a musician, is willing to put their ego aside so they can play full time, they're making, so this is the other thing too. They're making and crafting music that's intrinsically rewarding, right? So the act of making the music is what's rewarding, which is important. So here's the thing. You find something that's intrinsically rewarding where the input action of doing it, right, That's the reward for you as the human. Good. And then you find the overlap where the output is actually helpful or solves a problem for other people. So other people want to be felt. They want to feel that they're heard, and they want to feel understood, right? That's kind of the same thing. They want to feel heard, they want to feel heard, and they want to feel understood. And they also want to be brought together, right? So I think there's a deep sense of wanting to be brought together. There's, community and culture, right? And people like to be a part of that, and they like to engage with community and culture and art. And, people have an art walk, and you'll go walk around at shops and stuff, right? But I mean, you look at like people singing chorally in like a church or in a synagogue or in a mosque or, in any sort of setting when people sing together in a group and like someone based out the acoustic guitar or the campfire. It really is transformative. It really is. There's a physiological thing that goes on with you. I don't remember where that's from. Actually, I do remember where that's from. I don't know how to cite it properly, but it was probably 2 or 3 years ago. It was like an interview with Jordan Peterson, some researcher about music was doing. Let's see. You want to hop on? Okay. We're catching strays here on the broadcast. You know what podcast stands for? They talk in themselves. But it stands for pontificating broadcast. Don't know if you know. Anyways, fast talker. So, you're making, you want to come on? I'm working, we're talking to the people. You see, that's you, you're on camera. Woo, wave. It's just me. It's the whole globe. There we go. So we're talking to the whole globe. We're talking to the whole people. Now that it's just us, let's see, I might move this camera. I might move this setup so that you guys can get closer. Wiedersehen. Welcome to the podcast. There we go. You can see me now, my full glory. I can puff my chest out. So you think I'm a big man? Yes, you think I'm big man. You take me seriously. That is a nondescript accent to say that I'm being silly. Okay? No culture and ethnicity or nationality in particular. Because, you could say that was kind of like a Russian thing, then kind of a Chinese thing, and then kind of like a German thing, and then kind of a French thing. It just goes to show I'm being silly. I'm a silly little guy, okay? Nothing wrong with that. Being silly is actually very fun. Fun pastime. It's free. It costs nothing except your friends and family and loved ones and the relationship you have to them. They can't handle the silliness. It goes off the charts, it goes off the meters, and it goes flying everywhere, and it gets all over the room, and now you gotta clean up the silly. Like, how do you get silly out of a carpet? Right? Probably with some putty. That's where it came from, silly putty. Anyways, you're talking about, okay, so you do things that are intrinsically rewarding. The act of doing it yourself, that's intrinsically rewarding. Then the output you have, right? That's valuable to someone else. Now, music as an example, the act of making and creating music, either by yourself or with a group of people, or even if you're the engineer or producer, right? That's the intrinsically rewarding act. That's the thing that feels fun for the sake of doing it. That's the thing you like for the sake of liking it. It's meaningful for the sake of itself, right? In and of itself. It is, self-contained. Now, over here is your output, is what is the outcome, and is that productive? Is that useful? Does it produce something valuable to other people, right? And that's not directly for like money, but just think like, is it meaningful, right? Is it meaningful to other people? Does it create value? And so for other people, you take music and you look at, they want to feel, I think it's two things that you can broadly kind of clump it into. It's individuals as themselves want to feel heard. They want to feel understood. They want to feel seen. They want to feel like, oh my God, no one else has understood me or got me or related to me before, but now they do. Right? Someone did. And even if they don't now, because it's been 20 years since they made this record, at the time they did. And the version of them that was there, they got me. Right? That's where, kind of sadly, but people who like are super into like a lot of emo music from like the 2000s, what broadly referred to as emo, there are people who are like, depressed and like, would want to, self-delete, right? And self-harm and all these sorts of negative things, but they'd find music where people were singing about having the same like emotions and things like that, and they would feel felt and heard and understood. And then, ironically, they would go, even though it was all these dark negative emotions, you could characterize as being antisocial if you were, looking at them in isolation. The emotions are antisocial, not the individuals, or the impulses, the inclinations, right? And so then you take them and put them in a group together, because that's the second part. So people want to feel heard, felt, understood, right? And then secondly, they want to be brought together. That's why people go see live music. That's why people share memes of things they like. They want to feel heard and seen, and they want to be brought together. And then in there, because it's art, there's some other stuff going on that's like interesting to look at and analyze and pick apart when it comes to what does it mean? What about the presentation? Why is it like this? But all of that is determined by, does it make people feel heard and understood, right? And then does it bring them together? Provide them value and being enjoyable, yada, yada, and bring them together. Okay. And so, let's see. Oh, here's what it is. So take a band like Duran Duran or REM, who made these big, successful songs that were, at the time, it was monoculture, but the real point is they were super big poppy. And you could say some of the songs are vapid, right? They're vapid in the sense that they're not harmonically dense. They're not rhythmically like challenging to play or listen to or get your head around, like Tool song, right? So Tool songs often are known for their rhythmic variation, and like it takes a second to get into the rhythms, and like, oh my god, they're all very unconventional. And so you get to very unique spaces with that when you're writing stuff, and like what emotions, what kind of like feelings you can convey, which is cool. And then lots of jazz is known for being harmonically, having lots of different weird chord progressions and relations between the notes and the series of notes that come in before and after those combinations of notes, how you combine the different combinations of notes together, right? And so that's harmonic complexity, right? So you've got rhythmic complexity, you've got harmonic complexity, and then you can have, kind of vocal complexity, not just in the rhythmic and harmonic part of the performance, right? But in the lyrical complexity, right? So the idea, the concept. So it's really conceptual, like the lyrics, thematic, I guess you can say. Like lyrical complexity, harmonic complexity, and rhythmic complexity, right? So rhythm, boom, 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 and then you've got harmonic. Like that's just me trying to like move around as much as I can. It doesn't even have to be good or work. But that's to exemplify having a lot of variety there with the different note choices in terms of pitch and frequency. And then you've got rhythm, right? So you've got rhythm, you've got harmony, and then you've got the ideas, right? And then also variety with, like, you can say with how you pronunciate a word, right? The way you can pronounce a word and hold out different parts of it for different lengths and be staccato and be legato. Staccato means short and legato means longato shit. And so I was doing long notes pointed. So I was doing long notes right there. I'm doing like long phrases, and I'm accenting it with these short staccato pieces. And so you've got legato, these long things. This is just the words. I think it's like Italian or whatever the heck. Whatever the gosh they came up with that from. Anyway, so you've got Italian, these words, right? So you got legato, which means long. You got staccato, which means short. You got all the different variations. And then there's volume too, right? But when you're doing a track, usually it's normalized to one volume, right? Like the whole overall song is at a certain volume. The instruments can change up and down. That's called dynamics, right? And so they can have a lot of dynamics. So the instrument, the performer can play very quiet and play very loud, loud and quiet and loud and loud and loud. Actually, I didn't get very loud there, but the point is you can be very dynamic, right? Very colorful with how you're doing things. And so when you look at, this is the whole point, is looking at people could call vapid pop songs from bands like REM or Duran Duran, is they're ones that are usually lacking in rhythmic complexity, harmonic complexity, and lyrical complexity, right? So there's no complex emotions or themes being challenged usually. And if there is, that means the other two aren't that complex. So at max, one's complex out of those three different ways you can make a song complex, or none of them are complex, right? And so people would call those like they're vapid, right? But here's the thing: is like, well, why do they write them then? If there's nothing going on that can really be, kind of interesting, it might just be because it's catchy. And I think catchiness is independent of those three. Usually, catchy things are interesting, so something is at least a little bit interesting. But this is where, kind of get to this point of, well, why do they write these vapid songs? If you say they're good musicians, right? They know what they're doing, they have a good ear. Why are they writing these things that, definitionally coming from vapid, they lack complexity? Now, does complexity mean it's good? Not necessarily, but it seems like this real musician idea. You're a real musician means increasingly complex. So let's, kind of interrogate that. I think there's this idea that Finn McKenty from the punk rock NBA, he made this really kind of, he came up with this framework of thinking of things as mood-altering drugs. I think it was Finn McKenty. It could have been Damian Keyes. But I was watching someone on YouTube a while ago talk about it, and they said, if you look at music, or this is not what they said, what they said was, music forms as a mood-altering drug. People dose themselves with music, right, to do a certain thing, a certain purpose. And so it can change your emotion, it can change your mood, it can change kind of where you're at mentally. Like if you're really keyed up and anxious and you listen to a George Benson record, like, ooh, now I feel calm and smooth. I feel cool. I feel like a jazzy cat. And so you're like having a good time. Versus if, you're like calm, but then you listen to System of a Down. And now like you're up, you're ready to go. And so that's a very different kind of mood. And they can both change your mood from where it was. It can be a different place, or you can try and like really amp up or stay in a mood. A lot of times when I'm working out, I have a workout playlist that's supposed to keep me. Two moods that I kind of have when I'm working out is either triumph, like yes, victory, like Rocky, or and then like the A-Team. Like I have like very triumphant songs that tend to be like more major and like horns and like, you know what I mean, instead of intense. And then I've got songs that are like really like brutal and intense, kind of like angry, amped up, that kind of feeling. And but that's how I kind of use it as a mood altering drug. So I see this framework of the mood altering drug, looking at music as a mood altering drug. That's where I see its utility, and I kind of see it being, makes sense to me. And so this is what I wrote. I want to read through this because I don't even remember. I wrote this a while ago before I hopped on. If you look at music as a mood-altering drug, then making popular music forces you to become a musician who can make effective music. So there we go. So I'm working on seeing how these things interlock and juxtapose, but if you look at it as, that's what it is. For something to become exceedingly popular, it needs to be exceedingly effective. Effective, yeah. To make music that's exceedingly popular, it tends to need to be exceedingly effective. Now, you might say nowadays the top 10 is just TikTok songs. Here's the thing. Usually it ends up being production rather than the actual writing of the song or the construction of it, right? When it comes to like the characteristics, like if I took a song and played it around a campfire with an acoustic guitar and my voice, if it doesn't hold up, it's a less effective song, right? Because you can take a song that, and so this is what they do, is they use production rather than the actual songwriting itself. I think that's the test for songwriting, is if I sit there with an acoustic guitar and I sing it, it doesn't mean it's a bad song or it's not a great song. You can have incredible songs that can't be played in acoustic guitar singing that don't work for the campfire test. But I will say this, any song that passes the campfire test, if you add stuff or increase production, you know what I mean? It still is an amazing song, right? Because worst case scenario, it worked around the campfire setup, right? So you just go back to the campfire setup and that's the version you record, right? Is the acoustic with a vocal. And so that's where it's interesting, is a lot of people try and cover up, because here's the thing is, if you don't break it down to the campfire test, so either the song has to be catchy and the individual parts have to be catchy, or, them in total, they just end up being catchy. So somehow the song is a good song, it's well written, or the production is good. And music is the song and the performance plus the production, right? It's both things. I don't know if it's plus. It's not necessarily additive, but you have two things that define the music as the outcome, as the thing, as the mood-altering drug. The mood-altering drug is, is the production element, and it's the songwriting element. And I can attest that personally, because there's plenty of songs I've written that when you play them, like, oh my God, it sounds so good live. And then you try and record them in the studio, and you're like, I don't know what I'm doing, and I can't produce this right. And holy cow, I'm like, not depressed, but I'm like so heartbroken that the song that's amazing, it's not translating at all. The mood-altering drug, it's failing as a mood-altering drug because the production is the limiting factor, not the songwriting. And so that's where it gets interesting, is when your production, and your songwriting, they need to both either match or like be at an equal enough level. Both of them need to be good enough, right? And so, or just kind of how they combine needs to be good enough. Actually, I do think it is additive, because let's say you have let's say songs are out of 5, right? And production's out of 5, like 0 to 5 is how good it is, right? Campfire test, let's say, only songs that are 4 out of 5 and up pass the campfire test, right? And the campfire, let's call that production like 3. Just acoustic and vocal is like a 2. How about a 2? There you go. So, and the barrier for like music being good, like effective, is it needs to pass over the like, if you add them together, since it's 0 out of 5 and 0 out of 5, add them together, it's everything 0 out of 10, right? And so you need to pass above 5. It needs to be a 6 or higher to be good, and 5 and below is not good, right? Let's call it that. Okay, so if everything that passes the campfire test, let's call it a 5 out of songwriting, it's 5. And then the production, anything that's campfire production, where it's just acoustic guitar and vocal, that's a 2 out of 5, right? On production. You add it together, you get a 7. That sounds about right. If you take a song and you just record the campfire version, but it's a killer song, it's like Wonderwall with an acoustic guitar and vocals, it's a 7 and 10. But you add in the other production stuff and you step it up like they did on the actual one, and like all the backups and all that stuff, then it becomes a 9 out of 10 recording of a song, right? That mood-altering drug, that version of the song, that recording, that's a 9 out of 10. I bet if you just take the campfire version, it's still a 7 out of 10, right? So that's what I'm saying, right? So let's use that framework, and it's like, you look at the songs, I'm explaining why I think this framework works, but there are, things that seem like exceptions, but they're not. They're really just cases of production being a 5 out of 5 and the songwriting being a 2 out of 5, right? Or a 3 out of 5. Like, I don't know if it was Espresso by Sabrina Carpenter, but there was lots of songs where I watched Rick Beato had a video where he breaks down the composition and like the structure and all these things of the songs, and you look at it, and he kind of goes, he's like, there actually isn't a song here. There's a hook that repeats, and there's like 2 bars of verse, but then it just goes back to the hook, and it's all production pretty much. You came up with like one hooky thing, like one part that's catchy, and then you just kind of pasted it back to back to back to back. Nothing wrong with that. That can work. But you see that a lot with the TikTok songs. They're mood-altering drugs. Here's the thing. They're mood-altering drugs. They're not really songs. They're snippets, right? There's like a different phrase, the same way that like a YouTube video or a broadcast, right? Like a podcast, like an hour-long thing. Like that's a lot to contend with. There's a lot of content there. There's a lot of nuance. There's lots of things you can take away. Me, the Apprentice, I'm taking away lots of things from this Beato video. Barely even got into it. But it's what it kind of inspired and what kind of things it has me learning from things. And that's why I'm using this, the Apprentice, right? I think it's nice to label yourself with different things, because labels, if you say I can only be one label, it's constricting. But if you label yourself, you say, right now we're putting on an apprentice hat. We're trying to learn. We're trying to study the universe and teach what is being taught by what's said and what's not said, right? And, that's where you can glean some understanding. That's where you can be an apprentice of life. You can be an apprentice of everything. You can be an apprentice of art. You can see I'm like hyper-fixated on the fact that like my right shoulder is all funky. So I'm trying to like put my shoulder back. Because, yeah, I feel like I'm constricted. I look jacked. Anyways, but I was talking about this idea of, the label, the apprentice, because you're trying to learn these things. And so this framework I'm putting out, you talk about the same way that a film, you know what I mean, right? Like take like Blade Runner, right? And that's much more esoteric and like kind of like, what are they saying here? A little more artsy fartsy, right? It's great, but like it's not a like clear cut. Okay, I'm following what's happening. Like a kid watches Blade Runner, they're like, I don't know, something happened, right? I don't know. But that's let's say you take Blade Runner and you compare it to a TikTok, like two different things. You know, but there's still film productions, right? There's a shot with light, with framing, with focus, with editing, with sound design, with captioning, and there's what size of the shot and how do you work with that, and there's still filmmaking going on there. It's all the same exact tools and the exact same like type of thing. And maybe you can say all art is mood altering drugs. Maybe. Whatever that category of thing you want to call film, just call it film. And I'll call this music. Music mood altering drug, right? So music involves snippets, right? Or whatever you want to call them, clips that I call these like TikTok songs that aren't really. And then I would say songs. You've got songs and you've got snippets. You've got snippets, and these snippets are like the little, like the Sabrina Carpenter thing where it's like you have a part of a song, which is great, really good. But you said, why would I waste all these other great parts of a song and put them together and make one really good full song when I've got this one snippet that's really good, right? It's just a chorus. It's really brilliant chorus. But this one snippet, and it's good. It's good snippet. And I've got this excellent snippet. You've got this great snippet of a song. You staple three together, and you could repeat them in an interesting way and contrast them. And this is kind of what I talk about. This is what I think is the definition, because I've been watching a lot of these Rick Beato videos and these interviews. These very successful musicians know how to write very captivating musical orchestrations and compositions, and they're very good, including Sting and Stuart Copeland and all of these prestigious people, and Pat McCready, and all these people now have the same thing to say, which is pretty much you just write something really catchy. And then there's like the guy who's producing Stone Temple Pilots. I remember this one clearest. Is like, yeah, all they do is they'd write something really catchy, and then they would do that again, and they'd do that again, and they put them together, and then they just put them in an order that was good. And whatever catchy part you had, you would just repeat it as long as you could, and then you find where it's like, okay, it's nauseating to listen to, and you do one less than that. So it's like you literally milk the part as much as you can, where it's still cool and feels like, heck yeah, this is amazing. And then you contrast it with another extremely hooky, catchy thing. And you do exactly again, you do it as much as you can without it becoming nauseating. And then once it's no longer nauseating, then you either do a third part and then go back and play with the two, or you just put in that order and you keep doing that. And you want to keep things relatively focused to find things that are uniquely catchy, but also go together with other things. It's hard to find more than like 3, 4, or 5 without it kind of going on a tangent and going someplace different musically. It's kind of hard to circle back in. It just goes off into its own direction. And so finding the balance of like, how do I do things that kind of go, off and are different, but still go together? And it has to be different because it's uniquely catchy. It's a different catchy hook. I guess you can call it a hook, but I think like hooks are like a ba-dum, 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 I don't even know, but like hooks are like usually like one melody or one, rhythm. I think a catchy thing, like whatever catchy is, that kind of encapsulates like the combo of whatever the instruments are with whatever the vocals are and with the rhythm of the drums or whatever, right? Something catchy. It's hard to staple these things together. And so I think what I said, to be an effective musician is to know how to harness a hook, like I said, right? Milk it as long as you can, and then contrast it with other hooks. And then also, here's where it comes down to execution, right? You write this really good song like this, but if you as the performer, it's hard for you to sing like the notes and the melody where it needs to be and sounds good. You have a buddy who can sing up there or down there or wherever that range is or whatever style it needs to make it sound good. You have to have the humility to either change the key to where you can sing it if it still sounds good there. If it loses its magic, then you got to move it back up and find someone who can. And so it's having the humility to modify keys, modify your approach. So having someone else, modify the key, modify the approach, which might be like the style of like, instead of trying to hold out these notes the whole time that are really hard for you, maybe you go staccato and you take breaths in certain places and you change the phrasing of the melody. as long as it still doesn't lose how catchy it is, right? And so it's having the humility to, while preserving the catchiness of these things and the part and the whole thing together, coming together, because you can change the key, you can change how you phrase things, your approach to it, like as a performer. Then you can change the performer, right? And then, last but not least, you've got production. And that sacrifices all to make it effective. And what I define being effective is not only does it actually alter your mood, but it reaches people. It brings them together. It alters their mood and has a collective hypnosis, right? So reaching people is, making them feel heard and seen and understood, but also altering their mood correspondingly. Because I think to alter someone's mood, you have to first come to where they are, right? And so you see preachers, you see the people who influence large crowds of people. They talk to large crowds of people, whether it's good, whether it's bad, right? Whether you're a preacher, whether you're the president, whether you're a dictator, right? There's lots of examples for talking to people, or you're a principal in school, or you're giving a commencement speech, like Al Gore is giving one today at UCSD. Algorithm. Al Gore. I think if you had there's got to be some way. I'm making that song. I don't know how I'm going to do it. Maybe I map the letters of the notes using like mod 11, whatever it is. Mod 12, there's 12 notes, 11 notes maybe. I don't know. 12 notes. But using modular arithmetic, I'll just figure out like A, B, C, D. So I'll do like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or just whatever, A, B, C, D. But I'll figure a way to make Al Gore a name. Like I'll figure out, basically I want to take the name Al Gore and figure out what would its rhythm be. What would Al Gore be of the rhythm? Algorithm. I got the algorithm. My algorithm. You don't know because I got the squism-bism. Ooh. Yeah, I'm the squism master. You know I got to kind of use the restroom right now, but we keep it going. We keep it rolling. We never click pause. Can I even click pause? Let's see. It says mark clip. This ain't mark. This is clip. You don't know who clip is because you don't know what it is. That's what's up in. Having a puffin'. Stay puffin' like a marshmallow, cause I'm toughin'. You wouldn't even know if you were me, cause you ain't me, cause you never be me, you never see me, you never understand how I can be the man who can not eat ham. I don't eat ham. It's not kosher. I'm Jewish. I don't like ham. Sucker. Mother. Riding on a big duck in a lake, and I'm giving it bread, and that's how it's a giant, like, genetically modified duck from the GMOs, and so it ate GMO bread. I gave him the bread. It wasn't from Italia, where there's no GMOs. It was GMO bread, and I gave it to the duck, and it grew, and it became like a Hulk-sized duck. And then you're like sitting, you're on the lake, and now you're like 30 feet up. It's like an elephant. It's like a friggin' elephant duck. And so you're sitting on the duck, and you're just like, you have like a big like fishing net, and you just throw out in front of it like a carrot and a stick with a horse, or like a pig. They say you ride a pig, you put a carrot and a stick. It's a Minecraft, huh? It's a Minecraft. You do a carrot and a stick. I throw it over you, and you're the pig. Riding on the pig. I've got the stick, and so I've got a big duck right here, and I'm riding on the duck, and I go boom, and I throw in a giant loaf of non-GMO bread because he's already too big. I don't want to introduce more GMOs, mess up the size. What if he gets smaller? Can't be having it. I have my elephantism duckling, little duckery. Oh, little duckery, he's lovely. We saw little duckery at his recital. He was wonderful. Anyways, doing lots of silly little voices. The voices are amping up because I have to use the restroom. That's the thing, is like if you just hold it for a while, it goes away, right? Anyways, music, mood altering drug. So, okay, reaches people, they feel heard, brings them together. So, what did I call this? I said so mood altering, which is good, and then collective hypnosis, right? So you bring people together, and they sing and they do stuff. There's something that happens there. This was the thing from the Jordan. This is the thing. No, this is the thing from that Jordan Peterson podcast I was referring to, where he had a conversation with some sort of auditory, musical scholar. This guy was, apparently, allegedly, as much as the court can understand. And this man, he, articulates some things, and one of them was that when you sing together in a group, it does something to your brain. It does something fundamental. Something duck, and it was a Daffy Duck, and it fundamentally does something therapeutic, psychologically speaking, physiological too, right? I think maybe Huberman, Dr. Andrew Huberman with the Huberman Lab podcast. Yeah, I'm here in Stanford, and Huberman Lab, labbing man, Hube. You know how it goes, Huben. Oh my God. Let's see, Bay of Pigs. They invaded Cuba. Woo! Hi there, dog. Oh, you're so cute. Look at a cute dog. He's old dog, but very cute. Very old dog, very cute. Love him. Can't do the Trump voice right now. It's hurting my throat. Let me clear my throat. Futzing around my gut. Anyways. Oh, this collective hypnosis thing. Yeah, so let's just assume I've, sufficiently articulated what the heck I mean by that. So I'm going to run through this whole thing real quick, people. Oh, so making effective music is taking catchy parts. The essence is you have snippets, right? You got snippets, you got songs. Let's call the snippets catchy snippets. Let's assume you're in the business of trying to make catchy things, good things, therefore, right? So you're trying to make effective things, therefore. So catchy means effective. Effective is defined as catchy, right? So an effective snippet is a catchy snippet. An effective song is one comprised of catchy snippets that are milked and harnessed in such a way in combination and production and performance that they do not lose their catchiness. That's it. None of them takes the wind or the momentum or the energy out of the other, right? That's it. And so effective song is a song with catchy things executed in a way that it maintains its catchiness. So catchy song made up of catchy snippets in a catchy combination. There we go. A catchy combination of catchy snippets is a catchy song, which is an effective song. Okay. Catchy snippets are parts that are catchy. There you go. And so basically, yeah, let's see. And so how do you define a catchy combination is you milk the hook as long as you can, catchy snippet. You milk the snippet as long as you can, and you contrast with other catchy snippets that work with it. And you pick a combination that maintains its catchiness while sufficiently milking all the opportunities that lay before you. And so I think the people who can sacrifice their ego in an attempt to do this, right? Because one of the things that you need to happen to make the song still work when you combine all the things is that you realize we need to change the key, even if it's not originally what I wrote. It's the only way it's going to work. Or I need to change how I'm writing it. So the sanctity of what I wrote and my artistic integrity, and my self-indulgence, and my authenticity, it must be tampered with. Oh no, right? So yes, you're not a real musician in that regard then, but you're going to be an effective musician. You're someone who loves music more than you love yourself and your ego. Or you need to love, what is it? You love music more than you, I guess, love indulging yourself or being self-indulgent or aggrandizing. Just talking into the mic. It's peaking. It's not peaking anymore. It's peaking. You can feel me. It's not peaking. It's not peaking. Right here. Here's where we're holding the mic. This is the audio experience for you people. Yeah, and so to go from catchy snippet to catchy song involves getting your ego out of the way. And so I think the people who are, because here's the thing too, is if you become a musician who can write these poppy songs, these songs or stuff. And so here's the thing is, because this is where it's interesting. If you just take a snippet and you use production to cover over the fact that it's not particularly good, because you can, if something's good enough, if it's a 2 out of 5 on being a good song, you can, what did we say? You can 4 out of 5 the production and just do it and just figure out the way to execute it to mask for the fact and still make it a good song, a 7 out of 10. But it'll never reach higher than a 7 out of 10 because it's a 2 in one category. Even if you get to a 5 here, it only goes up to a 7. It's never going to go from, you know what I mean? Because if you take a 5 out of 5 songwriting song, then when you have just basic production, that's 2 out of 5, it ends up being a 7 out of 10, right? Just acoustic guitar, but a really good song. Okay, acoustic guitar, vocals, really good song though, so it's still 7 out of 10. But it can go all the way to a 10 out of 10 if you get the right producers, the right production involved, the right performers, whatever, right? And you create the right thing. So if you become someone who can write these 5 out of 5 songs, right? These campfire test passing songs, right? And even if they're vapid and they're simple and they're easy and, to some extent you could say they're generic. But the thing is, if something's too generic, no one feels like they're heard by it. So it's always going to have a little bit of tinge and flair, which is almost hard to sterilize out of music unless you're trying to, just because you as a performer, you've got uniquenesses to you, right? Oh, is my lens scratched? Is that what that is? I scratched my lens. Who cares? Anyways, still looks good. I look good. You know I look good, girl. Anyways, I always look good, girl. You know that about me. I always keep my mohawk on fleek. Thank you. Giving myself side eye like I'm some other guy I don't know. Are you fly? I don't know. Like a cloud in the sky. I despise my eyes. Can't synthesize rhymes in time to fly to Iceland. Anyways, that was a good podcast. It's a good podcast, but you're actually understanding what I'm saying, which is nice. So I'm trying to be thorough and trying to do due diligence, because all the tangents and things I skip over, they're valid to explain. So I do want to explain them. I do want to keep loose about it. That's why it's nice that I wrote everything out, because I can see all these different thoughts we're trying to mesh together, right? So you get the snippet, you get the song. These are all things I just came up with right now. And so if you look at, so if you become a musician who can write these campfire songs, who can write these really good songs, right, where it's just catchy thing, catchy snippet, right? So catchy snippet, organize them together. Maybe it's just 2 snippets that are really good. Maybe it's 2 snippets, but one time you sing a completely different vocal line. That could be it, right? I think it's the Strokes, but a lot of times Julian Casablanca, especially in the earlier stuff, it's like verse chorus, kind of like back and forth, or verse short pre-chorus chorus, that kind of thing, and then that repeats, maybe throwing a guitar solo, bridge, or whatever. But what he would do is within the verse, even if he just had 2 parts, there's a verse chorus, he would sing one melody for the verse, melody, it's the verse, melody, it's the verse, melody, the one melody, yeah, the verse, melody, it's the verse, melody, it's the verse, melody. So that'd be like melody 1, and then so that's half of the verse, right? The first half, right? But everything else is the same. And then you go for a melody, you go for another melody, you go for a melody, and I can see where it's gonna go. And so you take one melody and you take another melody. I don't even know if those work together. I don't even know. I'm just trying to say it's a different thing. It's a different thing, completely different. Try and come. One is staccato and long, and one is a long sentence, and the other's not. Right? One could be short lines with long lines and juxtaposing. One could be very monotone and rhythmic, but it's a lot of tone. It's monotone, tone, Maynard from Tooling Tool. So kind of Maynard from Tool does a lot of stuff where it's 1 and 4. When I'm saying 1 and 4, it's the first note in the scale and the 4th note in the scale, or the key, whatever key or scale that song is kind of based around, most of it. He, in the verses, a lot of times will just sing the first pitch in that scale, in that key, and the 4th pitch, and he'll go back and forth. But he'll do it in a way that's kind of juxtaposed with the rhythm of the song, usually mostly staccato, and then interject some held out parts in through there, right? And you can start to see where it's with all these variations. Technically, you can write infinite songs, but there's only 7 notes usually, right? And if you use all of them, it's 12, including the 5 that aren't in the key. And so even then, you get you get things where you've got less variation in terms of sequences of notes because it's finite, right? It's 12. It's 12 to the power of whatever. Like it's a permutation. So it's like n choose 1 out of 12, n choose 2 out of 12, n choose 3 out of 12, n choose 4 out of 12. Like whatever that equation from basic statistics is. It's a lot, but it's finite. And so there's these guys who have basically gone around and copyrighted every single variation of the melody. And they put it in the public source. They put in the open comments that anyone can use any melody so that no one can be fought in a court over you took my melody. It's like we all took the melody from the free melody that's there. So no. And it's already been copyrighted before you or I. Anyways. The whole point was to say that basically if you can write catchy songs and you can be a catchy songwriter and you can write catchy song, good songwriting, passes the campfire test. Acoustic guitar, vocals, can still move people, can still bring a crowd of people together. There you go. If it passes the campfire test and you're a good songwriter, by becoming a pop songwriter, you force yourself to have to do that, right? Even if you're still a rock band, you force yourself to make your songwriting has to get to the level where you can pass the campfire test. That means definitionally, you write effective music. Now that you have the skill, that you're a musician who can write effective music, definitionally you can write effective music. To write songs that are campfire test passing, it by definition means you write effective songs. You're an effective songwriter. You have the skill of making effective music that effectively alters the mood of people and brings them together. So, it seems obvious if you want to become a good songwriter, you sit down, you pick up an acoustic guitar, whatever your instrument is, right? Maybe piano. But you pick up a polyphonic instrument, one you can play chords on it, right? And you just do chords and a melody and words, right? And so if you can do that, and it's sometimes even better if you're not a perfect singer. I'm not the world's most technical singer. I don't really know what I'm doing half the time. And so it just happens. It happens. Guitar, I can make some shit happen. Oh, that was a curse. Sorry. I can make some stuff happen on guitar. So let's say you're a good singer, right? If you're not a good singer, then it's like there's nothing masking it. Let's say you can pass the campfire test. You want to become a good musician, good songwriter. You pass the campfire test with a bunch of songs, right? Like 4, 5, 10. Try them. See if they work on acoustic guitar and vocal alone. You try and get that to happen. Once that happens, you know you have the skill of writing effective music. You're an effective songwriter. Not even songwriter, song and production. Because then the production just comes down to I literally have this audio interface with 2 inputs, right? I put one mic up here and one mic on the guitar when I'm playing. Toca la guitarra. Tocar la guitarra. Y so yo toco la guitarra con el micrófono al lado el guitarra. I guess it's la guitarra, so al lado. I don't even know. I don't know. I'm learning Spanish. Okay, people. I'm learning. Yo aprendo español un poco mucho. Mucho. Al mucho. Un poco mucho. A little to a lot. A veces yo aprendo español. A veces. Nunca siempre. ¿Cómo hablar? ¿Cómo hablar siempre? A liar. Who says always? A liar. Who says they always do something? I always do it. Mostly. I mostly do it. I live in the real world. Nothing is always. There's no straight lines. That was funny listening to that Terrence Howard interview with Joe Rogan. Bro, listen to that. Listen to that. But no, there are no straight lines in nature because you look under an electron microscope, you see every straight line, even if you try and draw one, it doesn't exist. Straight lines aren't real. They're useful tools. So where was I getting that at with? Oh, yeah. So I think if you become a good musician, if you write these really good pop songs, it just proves not only can you be whatever level of technicality you are, you're definitionally a good musician. You're an effective musician. good might be subjective, but you're effective. That's the thing where you got to respect rappers, and you got to respect pop writers, not even writers, but I mean, like, so Taylor Swift, and I think this is ingenious, is the bed tracks, like basically what in my campfire analogy, the acoustic guitar part is done by a producer, except they do it instead of a 2 out of 5, which is the acoustic guitar, they do it a 5 out of 5. And so they've got this whole beautiful produced thing, and they send it to Taylor, and it's her job to do the songwriting part, right? And so it's like, okay, I gotta make the melodies, I gotta do whatever. And like if they send like 5 songs, she's like, let's see if one of these turn out really good, and sends it back. And if they're like, oh my God, that's really good, and they move forward with that, and then they do whatever they need. If they need an extra couple set of vocals on different parts, they tell her. She sends them, she records them, sends them over. They do all the work of putting it together and mixing it together, and then it goes out. And so the thing you got to respect with the collaborators there on that part of the songwriters, and well, I guess they're both songwriters at that point. The producer, songwriter, producer, co-writer, and the writers. What you got to respect about that is they're effective. They're effective musicians as that combo. They're effective, right? And so that's the thing too. Is like if you're a good songwriter like Taylor, you know how to take an acoustic guitar in just your voice and write a good song. And so you can outsource the acoustic guitar part because you know you passed the test already. Does that make sense? Right? So you know I'm an effective songwriter. And so if I collaborate with someone and let them do half of it and they're an effective songwriter, but they can produce it and get the production, you know what I mean? Instead of a 2 out of 5 to a 5 out of 5, it's like, well, I know I can get this to be a 5 out of 5. So if you can make that a 5 out of 5, now it's a 10 out of 5. And I can do it while I'm on the road because you just send me things that are fully formed, right? Fully baked. And I just go and go, just whatever you sing. And yeah, baby, I was scouting on the surface, scouting on the surface of a Martian lady. I was getting on the surface, getting on the surface, getting on the surface of my, yeah, ow, yeah. Getting on the surface, getting on the surface, getting on the top of the mouth. See, my head and my throat are all messed up. I got postnasal drip, and then I didn't do anything. Then I worked out really hard to the point where, like, I just got sick. I was like, shoot, I got influenza. You know, I got like a little bit of a sore throat, and I still have a little bit of congestion. So it's like hard to like sing and resonate, and then also the vocal cords a little iffy. So your voice, I got a theory. I'm totally talking out of my bum here, but my bum, it's a lot of room in there. That's where everything comes out. Anyways, welcome to Morning Radio. It's your DJ, it's your host, the Apprentice, Farrell. Farrell, the Godfather, the archetypal rock star, the Gen Z rocker, the Apprentice. What did I say? The 190 IQ Jew. Yes, there we go. The 190 IQ Jew slinging it at you. We're doing one a week, people. One a week we're doing podcasts. We're doing podcasts. One a week on the podcast. So basically, if you can become a really good musician, singer-songwriter like that, then you can go and do any genre. You can work with any producer in any style for the production part. You know the songs are going to be good because that's the fundamental thing. If you take a really good campfire acoustic song, you could do a version of Wonderwall, let's say, right, where you could do it like total like 80s, like sounding like Duran Duran production, or like Billy Idol. You could also do Wonderwall like that. You could probably do it like as a folk song. You could do it as Tom Petty. You could do it as a Jimi Hendrix song. I think like All Along the Watchtower. I think a lot of these different things. You could probably do it ska. You could probably do it punk rock. Like if something's that good, you can do it any style you want. You can do it trap. You can do it with like an orchestra. Right, a lot of these things, they get the Vitamin String Orchestra. They got a lot of these things where they take rock songs like Tool or Chevelle or whoever, System of the Down, and they'll do them with an orchestra. And you're like, these are beautiful, and these songs are still great. They still have these beautiful emotions, doesn't matter what the production is, right? What the performance production kind of style is, you know? And so that's where I think, honestly, if you want to be a real musician, in my estimation, you want to make effective music. You want to make music and so that's where you can go, what's real music? It's effective music. Maybe it's not, but effective music. You're going to make effective music that effectively alters people's moods and brings them together to a collective hypnosis. That's going to be the way you become a real musician in that regard, or an effective musician. Let's use that term. If you become an effective musician, the way you do so is by doing the campfire test and passing it over and over and over. And then you take those songs and you can do them in any way you like, any way that you can get the best production or that you think is the most befitting. And then with those songs that are good, then you go and you can do whatever you want. So that's the thing. Like that's the thing is if you can make songs that are so catchy and effective, even though they have no lyrical, rhythmic, or melodic complexity, and they can still touch people, and they can still do the collective hypnosis, that's how you know you're an extremely effective songwriter. So if you can write a song like Shiny Happy People, that's what Mike Mills was saying. That's a song for babies. We wrote that as a song for babies. We wanted children to like that song. We wrote a song that was vapid, harmonically, not a lot going on complexity-wise, and same rhythmically. Now, I think it's a really catchy song. It's really good. That's the thing. It's vapid, and they could say empty. It's not empty. It's empty of those things. It's a light song. It's a very light song, right? It feels very like a fluffy bread full of air. If you ever have a Chicago-style pizza, there's a place down in PB called Square Pizza. I'm in San Diego. A place in Pacific Beach called Square Pizza Company. And it's down, baby. And what they have is they have like a Chicago style, I think. I don't know. Maybe it's Detroit style. It might be Detroit. That's what it is. And they do this like fluffy, like kind of light bread. And the cheese is like, it's there, but it's not the main stage. And the bread is there, but it's just puffy. It's full of air. It's very light. And the sauce is really flavorful. And then you've got a little bit of a crown crusting buttering, right? Brown butter crusting on it, and tastes good, but it's very light. And so likewise, you could say one of these songs like Shiny Happy People, they call the song for babies. REM did, right? Or at least Mike Mills did. That kind of song you're dealing with, I really got to use the restroom now. That kind of song you're dealing with, that proves that you're such an effective musician, you're such an effective songwriter, that you can, with zero complexity, lyrical, harmonic, or rhythmic, you can make impactful, effective, mood-altering music. You can make effective music that does, mood-altering and the hypnosis. Collective hypnosis. I'm calling it collective hypnosis because I don't remember what it was called, but there's the mood-altering phenomenon and the collective hypnosis. If you make people feel heard and bring them together, right, then it's effective music. And if you can do that without any complexity, that means the art of being effective is something you perfected. And so now you can take that into any genre, any style, any environment, and you have the skill of making highly effective music that moves people and makes them feel heard and brings them together. That's the thing. Boom. Write a vapid pop song. You're going to have to become a god at music. You're becoming a god at music and write a vapid pop song. Timmy Tiny! Timmy Tiny! Timmy Tiny! Sample on a rap song, yo. Oh, so that's the thing that these snippet kings on TikTok are doing is, yeah, you can write a snippet, a catchy snippet. These snippet kittens, script kittens, you can write a catchy snippet, but you don't have the skill of being an effective musician, really. You're not writing you're not stapling together to make songs. Effective song musician. If you're doing songs, yeah. If you're just doing snippets for the sake of snippets, you're doing great. More to it. But if you're doing, you want to be an effective song musician, effective song maker, performer, creator, artist, then you got to work on the campfire thing. You got to know how to stitch them together, how to play with those things like I was saying, how long to milk a hook, how to contrast with other hooks, but that still go together, and then how to have the humility to change the key without it losing its hookiness, approaching things differently from how you had your original artistic intent, and changing the performers and the production, sacrificing your ego and your uncomfortability, to reach people and to actually be effective. So there you go. That's what I learned from the Mike Mills interview with REM. Let me know what you think, and come back to the Rock Show with Connor Farrell. It's been great having you. Stop.